Alright, so today we're going to work on the 3D printed dice using Google Sketchup, and we're going to be using the Sketchup for Schools app, the free version that's an online streaming version. This is newer to my students as we're using it for remote learning currently. So we're going to get rolling. If you have the 2016 version, that's fine. You can follow the instructions that I sent out to you. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and make this video using SketchUp for Schools. So to start with, we're going to use our millimeters templates, a simple template millimeters. And we'll get rolling. We're going to delete Dr. Temple Grandin, so just select them and then hit delete on your keyboard is the easiest way. Now, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a rectangle tool. We're going to use our rectangle tool and make a cube that's 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters, right? One side note is that if you noticed, we don't have a large tool set on this tool. There's no option to add toolbars that I can find. So it took me a little bit, and what I did was I searched, because the views are really important for this assignment. And I just searched for the top view, and right away it pops up, and if I click on this, it's going to take me to my top view. Now there's an easier way that I found after a while of digging, and that's through the scenes. So if you click on the scenes, there's all of our different views. So there's our top view right there. I'm going to go back to my 3D view. It doesn't really matter which isometric 3D view we use, but I like this one where the green and red axes are sliding off to the right of the vertical axes. Okay, so rectangle tool, R for shortcut, or it's over on the left hand toolbar, and we're going to click release and then drag, and that's always the key with SketchUp, is to click, release, drag, and then we can type in, and you know you've done it correctly if you have your hand off the mouse and you can still move it around. So 20, 20, enter, and we're going to, you're going to say, well, where'd that go? Well, it is there. We just have to really zoom in, and it gets kind of tricky. Remember, wherever you point your mouse to, and if you're zooming in, that's where it's going to zoom to. Easier way then is to, of course, go with our zoom extents. So there's our zoom extents. We're going to now drag that up. And another little trick, actually, let's just keep rolling here. Let's H, we're going to pan that down. So H is for the hand or the pan tool. Okay, and then P for push pull. So we're click, release, drag. We're going to type in 20, enter. Okay, then we're going to go back to our zoom extents, make sure everything looks proportionate. So 20 by 20 by 20. Perfect. Now, the next thing it says is we're going to select our top view. So we're going to go back to our scenes, we're going to go to our top view, and it says grab our tape measure tool. So T is the shortcut for our tape measure. You can see that it highlights over here when we've got it selected. And we're going to find the midpoints of this. So this is for, on our top view, we're going to do the number one side of the dice. So there we go. We click release once again, drag this over, and we're creating guidelines. And line it up to this midpoint, and it should snap to that midpoint of 10 millimeters. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a crosshairs. Just like if we were drilling a hole in wood, we want to create the center of the circle. So another 10 millimeters down. There's the center of our side. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw a circle using the circle tool. So C is the shortcut. It's over on the side. And we're going to click on that intersection, drag, click, release, drag, and we're going to create a 2 millimeter circle, 2 millimeter radius of a circle. So 2, enter, and remember, radius is from the center of the circle to the outside. Diameter would be from one side of the circle to the other side. So this would be a 4 millimeter diameter or 2 millimeter radius circle, and that's what all these are going to be. Now, since we're going to be using the same size circles or dots on all sides of the dice, we're going to create that as a component. So we're going to hit our space bar to get our select tool, or over here we can click. we're going to click drag. So this is one instance where we want to click and drag. Don't release. So click drag a box around it from top left to bottom right, and then we're going to release, and it's going to select all the parts of the circle. So all the dots in the middle showing that the face is selected as well as the outside edge. Then we're going to right click, say make component, or you could type in G for a shortcut. We're going to call this circle. We're going to make sure that it's glued to any surface, and then we're going to say OK. Something doesn't look quite right, so I'm just going to go Control Z to undo. There we go. So once again, we'll select the whole thing. Right click, make component, glued to any, call that a circle. Come on. And we're going to say OK. It was just glitching out with my views. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my top view and make sure that it's still there. Perfect. Sometimes SketchUp can be a little bit glitchy like that, but move it around long enough, you'll figure it out. Okay, next thing is we're going to now move to the number 4 side of the dice, so the front view. So we're going to click over here, we're going to find where our front view is. So front view would be the one with the door right here. Click on that, and then we're going to type in our user guideline, so type in T again, and we're going to create 4 guidelines 5 millimeters towards the center from each edge. So click on anywhere on that one edge. We're going to go 5 millimeters over, type enter. We're going to go another 5 millimeters from the other side, enter. We're going to go 5 again. And 5 once again. There we go. So there's the center of our 4 circles. You can see it's starting to lay out. And get rid of that scenes again. Now this time, in the old one, in the old desktop version, we had that default tray that was off to the right side, so we could find our components. If we hover over this area, we should be able to find our components. So right there, that one with the 3 cubes, click on that, and we're going to search for in model, and there's our circle right there. So we're going to click on that circle, drag it over. Now the only thing with this that I don't like is that it always tries to find the middle, or sorry, the outside edge of the circle. So we have to try find the center of the circle. It's not really working the best, right? So usually if you hover over the points long enough, it'll find the center. So there's the center. Then we click, drag, and move it to the center point. Now that we have the center of this, it's much easier, because now we're going to hit control with our move tool. Remember, that's going to make copy now. You get that little plus symbol, move, copy, and then we're going to copy it from that edge to all the other edges, all the other intersecting points. Okay, click, drag, there we go. Now we've got our 4 side of the dice done. Okay, so we're going to now, you'll see that every time that we click on one of these things on the right side, our task pane over on the side, it just keeps adding them on here, and then you have to keep scrolling them down. If you don't want to have this, if you're not going to be using that much, you could close this and then just bring it back up again by doing that, or we can shrink the whole pane off to the side. Okay, so the next thing that it says is to flip on the page in the instructions. We're now going to find our right side view from the Views toolbar, or in this case our scenes. So we're going to go to our right side and try to remember which would be the right side. Well, we look at our house. Right would be the side with the chimney on, so that would be that one right there. So that's our right side. The old version too was kind of nice because it would actually say down in the corner which side you're working on. I'm not seeing that here anywhere, so we're going to assume that. The other option, if you're a little uncertain about that, is you could type in right view, and then it's going to bring it to us when we click on that. Okay, so the next thing then is we're going to use our tape measure tool again. This time we're going to do the two side of the dice. So we need to draw a line from corner to corner. So a guideline from corner to corner. So all we're going to do is get our tape measure tool, click from one corner, click to the opposite corner. You see it places that guideline on an angle. So we've been creating guidelines. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to learn how to create guide points. So using the tape measure tool now again, we're going to create a guide point 8 millimeters down the diagonal line from the top left corner, and then we're going to repeat that from the opposite corner. So to create a guide point, you click on one point and you drag right along an edge, and it's going to type in now 8, enter, and you see it creates just a point on that. And that's all we need, is just a simple point, just to find that intersection. So 8 again from the opposite side. We're going to go back to our components again, find our circle, we're going to place it, find the center point once again. Now, as I see this, what maybe might have made this easier is if we edited this component and actually made a circle point on it, the center point on it. But this works well enough once you get the hang of it. Just hovering and then finding that center. Okay, so there's our two side done. And we're going to then go back to our back view, so the back of the house. So right there, that would be our back view. Once again, if you're not sure, you can type in back view, click on that, and it actually gives you that little icon so you get used to it. Okay, and we're now going to do another tape measure tool. We're going to create some more guides. So this time, same as the last one, but we're going to go from the opposite corner. So bottom left to top right. On that line, we're now going to divide that into thirds. So we're going to place a copy, and this is the simplest way that I figured out, is we're going to not create guide points yet. We don't know what those measurements are going to be, and it could end up being a fairly uneven number with several decimal points. So instead, we're going to get our circle, place it off to the side, find that center again. Oh, and it popped up. And the more you do it, the more that it tends to find that center easier. So once you find it once, it's pretty quickly going to find it. And then we're going to copy that to the opposite end using the same center point. And then, just like in the pool house assignment that I've given you guys, we're going to create an array. So without doing anything else in between, we're not going to change our view, nothing. We're now going to divide this space into 4 equal spaces. So we're going to go 4, divide, enter. And you'll see then that it's created the 3 circles that we needed. Now that we have that, we can go back and we can just erase or click on select and delete those outside circles. And there's our three side of the dice. So the next thing that it says is we're going to go to our left view. So once again, just to ensure that we're doing this correctly, I'm just going to type in left view is the one with the window. And on our left view, we're going to use our tape measure tool, and we're going to create 2 diagonal lines, corner to corner, to make an X pattern, because this is going to be our 5 side. So repeating, there to there, there to there, and then that's going to give us our center one, but where do the other ones go? Where along this point, right? So in this case, I've asked that you create another guideline that's 5 millimeters from the top down. Make sure it's on that blue axis, 5, enter, and then 5 from the bottom up, 5, enter. There we go. So now we've got our intersections, our 5 intersections. And if you guessed it, yes, we're going to go back, we're going to get our circle, place it, find the center, place it first off at one of the intersections, doesn't really matter which one. Copy it again, hit Control, copy, copy, and copy one last time. So there's our 5 side of the dice. Next up, we're going to go to our bottom view to create our 6 side of the dice. So once again, I actually don't see the bottom view on this one. So we're going to type that in. We're going to go to bottom view, and it just isn't there. So I'm not sure why, but we found a way to make it work, so that's good. So we're going to create some more guidelines. Tape measure again. Top down, we're going to go 5 millimeters again. This time it's on the green axis. We're going to go 5 millimeters up from the other edge. Once again. And then, similar to the number 3 side, we're going to use that array again to make the holes evenly spaced. So we're going to bring in a circle. We're going to place it on the end once we find the center. There we go. We're going to place it at this edge. We're going to copy that to the opposite edge. So the 6 side of the dice is going to have 3 across, and we're going to divide that space then by 4. And we're going to hit enter. You see it created that same thing again. So there's a few ways we could do. We could select all of these and copy them down, or we can just repeat the process, which seems to me to be the easiest way to do that. Oh, I spoke too soon. Selected my edge of the line instead of the center of the circle. There we go. Remember, if you make a mistake, Control Z or Alt Backspace are the shortcuts to undo. We're going to copy, let's do that again. I'm going to start paying more attention. There we go, copy to the opposite side. And remember, with an array, we can't do anything else, so we're just going to simply, in this immediate step, divide by 4, enter. Now we can go back, and if you figured it out, we can erase those outside circles because we don't need them anymore. And we've got our 6-sided die. Next thing, we need to push these circles back now to make holes, because we're going to make this into we're going to hopefully 3D print this dice once we get back. So we're going to start by editing one of the circle components. It doesn't matter which one, so we're just going to either right-click on it and say edit the component, right? Edit the component. Other option is you can just double-click on one of them. Same thing. And then we're going to use the push-pull tool. Now I will say I find this a little bit easier if I orbit to a bit of a 3D view, or if I was to go over and select one of these isometric views. I'm just going to orbit a little bit, and then I'm going to get my push-pull tool, so P for push-pull, and I'm going to click, push down, click release, push down, and I'm going to push that down. How deep do we have? 2.5 millimeters. So 2.5, enter. Alright. That did not seem to work. We're going to Control Z that, and we're going to try that again. So we're going to click on that face, push down, 2.5, enter. I'm going to trust this, yes. Okay, then the next thing that we're going to do, because we can't see that we did that, is we're going to hit our space bar, click on that face of the circle. We're going to delete the face of that circle. Alright, so I'm just going to have to play around with this a little bit and try to figure out what's going on with this. Okay, after doing some digging and figuring out why that wasn't working the way I thought it would, the default in the desktop version that we usually use, when you create a component, the cut opening mark is always checked off. In this case, it wasn't checked off. We didn't check it off. So we're going to have to go back and change that. So to do that, we just simply select one of the circles, we then go over to our Components tab. We're going to click on this circle. So if you haven't already, you're going to click on that. And then where it says Cut Opening, we're just going to put a check mark next to that. Okay? And then once we put that check mark on there, we're going to close that component again. We're going to go off to the side. Now when we edit this one of these circles, we're going to push that down. So P for your push-pull. Push that down, and we said to push that down 2.5 millimeters, so 2.5, enter. And now we can select that circle, and we're going to hit the delete key, and you'll see then that it's allowing us to delete that face. So, and it should have done that all the way around. Click the off to the side. What's kind of neat too is a good little trick is to check with the X-ray tool. So in X-ray view, we're going to see how that is all looking. So first thing, let's just orbit all the way around, make sure all the sides look correct. Awesome. Okay. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to go to our X-ray. So can't really find it in toolbars, but if you simply type in X-ray or X, it'll show up. So seeing through the objects. And we're just going to toggle that on. It's kind of cool. You can see right through. I've had students use this when designing a project with drawers to see how the drawers are going to match up with the insides, because when you have the drawer inside of the project, you can't see how it's fitting and what the measurements are all around the outside of it. So they turn on the X-ray view just to see that and print it off with the X-ray on. Okay, so there we go. Looks good. We have to go back to our X-ray and toggle that back off again. And something that we haven't used before is we're going to I haven't used before anyways. First thing, we're going to make this all one big group. So we're going to select it all. We're going to make that a group now. So right click, make group, and then there's a 3D inspector on here, solid inspector, and it's going to tell us if there's any issues with our with 3D printing. So it's showing us that we have a nested group or components with saying components within components, and yeah, we know that. So it's showing us that, right? So how do we fix that? Unfortunately, it doesn't really give us any tips for that. I'm just going to simply go back and try to undo that grouping that we did. So I'm going to go Control Z. Now when we select one face, it's not part of the group. So let's try our inspector now and see. So solid inspector, and select a group or component to inspect. Let's inspect that. So border holes, a hole in the geometry that shares at least one of its edges with the surface. Draw over highlighted edges to fix the border hole and rerun the inspector. So it's saying that there's holes within this where it's red here. I'm not really sure how to fix that offhand. I do know that we've printed this multiple times and it's worked just fine. We can try to soften and smooth those edges, see if that helps. I wouldn't worry too much about that one. And short edges, it's just because it's a really small project, they are recommending that it may result in some issues because it's so small, but once again, we've printed this and it's worked fine, so that's not going to be an issue. So if those are the only issues showing up, then we should be good to go. If you are unable to actually 3D print this when you get back to school, what we can do then, or what I'd like you to do in that case, is to submit this electronically, or you could print this off. Now, if you're printing this off, I don't want to see all these guidelines. That's kind of annoying if if you want to paint it with the paint bucket, by all means go for it, but you don't need to. One more thing that we used to always do on the old version was we'd go to our styles. Let's see if we can find our styles. There's our styles. And we go to our 3D print styles. Just going to pause the video here and see if I can find. Okay, so once again, I'm still getting used to this Sketchup for Schools version, and I figured this out as well. Another thing to watch for with 3D printing assignments is that all the faces are oriented. So what I mean by that is that if we go to our styles, so styles right here, and then this bottom left one down here under default styles, so 3D printing style, we're going to click on that, and then if you go to edit the style, we click on face settings, we're going to change our face setting front color. So we're just going to pick a bright color, say okay, we're going to change our back color to another bright color just so it's easy to see the difference between them. And you can tell the difference between them right now in that they're not all the same face. So it's kind of like if you cut open a sponge, you'd see, or if this is a sponge, you'd see a different color on the inside, right? So we need to have them all the same color, or all being the front color facing out. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit one of these circles. We're going to click on that face, right click, and we're going to reverse the faces. Okay, and then do the same thing again. We're going to reverse the faces. Now that they're all the same color in that 3D print style, we know that this is good to go. It will print, and it'll print just fine. Okay, so that is the 3D printed dice. We could be a good idea if you're going to print this is to turn off your view or your turn off your guides. I'm not really sure how to do that offhand. So, there we go. So we just search for guides and view guides. I'm just going to unclick that right there. So there must be, judging by that icon, that must be one of the tools in here. I'm just going to turn that off. We've now turned off our guides. Some of you might be creating some guides after if you're still working on this and be like, where'd my guides go? It's just probably that it's turned off. You could delete them, but why? If you can turn them off, that'll work much better because then you can turn them back on again. Okay, so there's the dice. Make sure that you save your file. Say dice. There we go. It's going to save in my Google Drive. And saved.